Hi there, my name is Wayne Hedlund, and today's videos I'm going to share with you two game changers for your schedule to help you be more efficient and productive in making sure that you get the things done week to week and month to month that are important to you, helping you to take control of your world and of your life, and hopefully maybe even increasing your capacity so that you can accomplish more. And it's with two game-changing tips that are actually very easy to understand, but sometimes can be very challenging to implement. To begin, I just want to kind of share with you an illustration. Most of you maybe have had the experience of going to a buffet, and actually I used to live in Lancaster area of Pennsylvania, and there's one of the largest buffets in the nation, if not the world. This massive, long, just table upon table upon table, just filled with food. And so what do? I grab my plate, I start looking around, and oh, that looks good. So I put a little on the food, and oh, that looks really yummy. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the food, and I got the vegetables, and I've got the muffin or the roll, and I've got this and that and the other thing, and I'm filling up my plate with food. And then I look down and I realize, wait, I haven't even put the main course on yet, and my plate is full. Why? Because we went down this line and we're just putting whatever seems, yummy at the time or enticing, or whatever is in front of me, right? Whatever I see. I think it's weird a lot of times with these buffets, they'll put the main course at the very end of the line. So you've already filled your plate, and then you get to the end of the line, and there's where the the brisket or the whatever it is, the main course. And now I'm like, where do I put it? And I have to slap it on top or find a way to fit it in. And the fact is a lot of times with our schedules, the same thing happens. We have the tyranny of the urgent. We have people pulling on us. We have emails. We have meetings that have been set up for us, or that we set up, way in advance a long time ago. And all these things are like us putting on our plate the things that are in front of us, but we're not necessarily putting on our plate or on our schedules the things that are important to us. So we're not getting the things done that really we want to get done. We're not able to focus on the things that we want to focus on because our plate is getting filled up with so many other things. Now, the fact of the matter is, all of us have three things that we have to manage in our world. And this is important for understanding these two tips or game-changing tips. But the three things that we have to manage, first of all, we all have time to manage. That one's pretty obvious, right? 7 days in a week, 24 hours in a day. We cannot add to that. We can't even subtract from it. But of course, how we use that time is going to make a difference on whether or not we have capacity, whether or not we're going to be able to get the things done that we want to, etc. And incidentally, I'll just digress and say, when we talk about getting things done, I'm not just talking about in the workplace. I'm talking personally. You have relationships, you have people, family members or loved ones. You have your health that you're trying to figure out. You have some personal things that you want to do. Maybe you want to dig into your faith. Whatever it might be, these things are important to you as well. And again, if we don't manage our time well, these things can sometimes get pushed aside or not even get put on our plate properly. So we all have our time that we have to manage. The second thing that we have to manage is our energy. Believe it or not, we have to be thinking about and processing how are we going to manage the energy that we have. And there's, basically three kinds of energy, right? We have physical energy. Sometimes we're just exhausted after, exerting ourselves physically. You go out and, run a marathon. You're not going to come back and have the energy that you would have on a different day when you didn't run that marathon. Why? Because you're physically drained. We have emotional energy that we have to manage. Some things just require a ton more emotional energy, or dare I say, some people require just a ton more emotional energy. And so sometimes we have to manage that energy as well. To give you an example, if you're a college student and you have a final exam on a particular day, How many of you know taking that final exam is going to probably take a lot more emotional energy than perhaps something else, reorganizing my desk or doing something that isn't really as emotionally taxing. Of course, the third energy that we have to do, and I kind of gave it away there, is intellectual. Sometimes we're straining our brain. Sometimes we're focusing really, really hard on something. And sometimes when I'm preparing for a speech, or if I'm really right in the middle of developing our budget for our organization, that just intellectually, drains me. And so I'm actually need to manage my energy, not just my time, but my energy. And I need to look at my schedule and in my life and say, hey, if something's going to be pulling from me, maybe it's a person again, and it's going to pull a lot of energy from me, maybe I need to make sure that that day I don't overdo it by, adding more things to my plate that will take even more emotional energy. And then the third thing that we have to manage, we said time, energy, and the third thing is priorities, right? Very important. There are things that we have in our world, in our life, in our business, at work, and personally that are priorities. They're important to us. Sometimes they're relationships. Sometimes they're, activities that need to happen that are going to help our organization succeed, but they're not necessarily always right in front of us. But these are things that are important, and we have to manage them well too. So with that in mind, let me share with you 2 tips or 2 game changers that I think will really make a difference in you managing your schedule successfully. And the first one is not hard to do, but I find so many people struggle actually implementing it. And that is to set up for yourself what I call a weekly planning meeting. A weekly planning meeting. This is a meeting that only you attend. Nobody else is allowed to attend this meeting. It's where you sit down, ideally at least in the beginning for an hour, and you look over your whole life. And you would do this every week, maybe on a Sunday or a Monday morning. First thing is usually when I do it. And you'll look, maybe forecast out perhaps around 2 weeks. You're going to look at your to-dos and your tasks. You're going to look at your schedule, your calendar, your meetings that are upcoming. You're going to look at your priorities. You're going to look at your energy, the things that you know are going to be taxing. You're going to look at your goals, the things that you know you want to accomplish, both personally and professionally. And you're going to manage those things. This is a weekly planning meeting. It's about an hour where we're looking at all these things and we're organizing, we're planning them, we're making sure that we're putting into our calendars the things that are important, and maybe sometimes taking things out of our calendar. For instance, again, I am a public speaker, and sometimes I need to spend a ton of time to prepare for a particular message that I need to give to an organization. And so I know that I need a lot of time to be slotted in preparation for that message, especially if it's new content. And so I'll need to look at my schedule and make sure I have the time in my week to focus on preparing for that speaking engagement. If I have a whole bunch of meetings scheduled in that same week, I know I need to change some things up, right? So I might need to make some phone calls. Hey, can we reschedule? I'm sorry, I've got something else that I need to make sure I'm focused on, etc., etc. So I'm empowered to make sure that my world, my schedule, is what it should be because of this one-hour meeting where I'm basically looking at myself and saying, self, what are you supposed to be doing tomorrow and the next day and the next? And let's manage our world so that it fits in with our priorities, with our energy, and with the time that we have. That's our first tip. Not hard to do. We just have to implement it. And instantly, I'll just close with this. I'll say you're going to be sorely tempted to cancel or reschedule that meeting because it's with yourself. It's kind of like, hey, it's okay if I don't do it this week, or you know what, maybe I'll do it later today or tomorrow. And I've found that when I do that, very rarely do I actually have the meeting. And almost always I regret it. So maintain that meeting. Make sure that you do not skip it. Obviously, sometimes life happens and we have to move things around, but call it a critical and important meeting for yourself to make sure you're ready for your world. All right, and tip number 2. The second thing that you can do to really make sure that your calendar and your schedule is set up in a way where you're empowered to get things done is to understand and learn how to do something we call calendar blocking. So what is calendar blocking? Calendar blocking is when we look at our calendar and we fill it up. So when people are using doing calendar blocking properly, when I'm doing it properly, if you were to look over my shoulder and see my schedule, you would look and say, you are a busy man. Why? Because when you look at my calendar, you wouldn't just see the meeting that I have. You would see everything blocked out that is important to me. Now, this is not supposed to be replacing my task list or my to-do list. That's very important that I have a to-do list that's helping me organize my projects and tasks and activities. No, what this is I'm blocking out into my calendar chunks of time that are dedicated to things that I know are important. So for instance, maybe I would block out early in the morning exercise, and then I might block out some travel time to my work, and I wouldn't need to block that, but I could if I want to. But then maybe when I get to my office or my workplace, I know I need that first hour to just kind of get my head in the zone, and so I might schedule admin time for an hour, or I might schedule that weekly planning meeting at the beginning of the week. And then as I'm looking at my week, I realize, hey, I have that speaking engagement. I'm going to need about 5 hours to prepare for that. So I'm going to block out 2 hours on Tuesday and 3 hours on Wednesday to make sure I'm ready for that speaking engagement on Thursday, right? I'm blocking time out. Or I have a budget that I have to develop, or there's a meeting or a presentation that I need to prepare for. I'll block out the time that I need to focus on that. Again, it's not supposed to be a to-do list. It's a block of time where I look at the project that I'm wanting to focus on during that time. Now, why do we do this? And if you do it effectively, your whole schedule looks full. And that doesn't mean that you block out all of the meetings. You still have staff meetings or team meetings or one-on-ones or lunch meetings, etc. But we're blocking around those things. For instance, I lead a team meeting with my team, and usually I'll block out a half an hour prior and sometimes a half an hour afterwards so that I can make sure I'm ready for the meeting and so that I can have a debrief time with myself and do any follow-up that needs to happen. Blocking out time for something that I need to focus on. So when I do this, it empowers me. So what happens now if someone comes to me and says, hey, Wayne, can we get together on Thursday at 2 o'clock? Now I'm empowered to make some great choices. I can look at my calendar and I can see that's during the 3-hour block that I was planning on preparing for a particular presentation. And I can ask myself, can I reschedule an hour of that 3-hour block to another time, or do I need those 3 hours in order for me to make sure I'm ready for that presentation that's, let's say, on Friday? So now I can look at that person and say, I'd love to get together with you, but let's schedule it next week because this week I'm booked. This week I know my schedule is full. I have to focus on the things that I need to. Or I might be able to look and say, hey, you know what? I probably can shuffle things around, and what I was planning to do Friday morning, I can move to next week. And so I'll go ahead and finish preparing my presentation Friday morning and meet with that person on Thursday when he would like to meet. So I'm empowered to make choices, and I'm empowered to make sure that I'm getting things done that I feel are most important. So these two things, I believe, can be game changers for anybody in your world, whether it's scheduling your personal world or your professional world. It allows you to be empowered. It allows you to be in control, and allows you to hopefully accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And I'll close this entire talk with this. When you can grab hold of these concepts, first of all, that we're managing 3 things, and second of all, that we have a weekly planning meeting for ourselves, and that we learn how to block our schedule and block our priorities into our schedule. When you can master those ideas and concepts, I believe it will also increase your capacity. In other words, how much you can actually accomplish will become greater, and people will be able to rely on you to get more done, or at the very minimum, you will have more time and energy yourself to accomplish more things that you want to accomplish. All right, I hope you found this helpful. Again, if you did, feel free to subscribe or like this video. And incidentally, if you're ever interested in learning more about how you can be a more productive person, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love to do productivity coaching. And everyone have a great, great day. Thanks so much for watching.